All right. See if we have four books about a life of somebody, and then one that's an extension of another book, recounting the tales of what happened after that person. And then we have the bunch of these different writings, um, which are some are not disputed and others are hotly contested, and some are kind of marginal of whether not so disputed but still kind of up in the air, or some aren't really disputed at the time, but then modern scholarship says, well, there might not have been written by this person or that person. And also the other way around, where modern scholarship says, oh, look, this seems to be the same writing all the way through. If you have multiple authors with writing about different things for different purposes, are there going to be discrepancies? Well, one thing that we know is if there aren't any discrepancies at all, then it's forged. It's a hoax. It's a conspiracy, basically. At the Council of Jerusalem, basically acts as, Paul gets called down by James and the other apostles, and it's Peter that really makes the case for Paul, and then he prompts Paul and Barnabas to make these. So you tell me your accounts, and Barnabas kind of, oh yeah, we did this, that, and the other thing, and then James says okay, and basically rattles off what he says, and they're in agreement. In Galatians, he just says, when I went down to Jerusalem, basically. I go into much more detail in this in a video that I actually made. I think I have a few of them that I just need to upload, but I just wanted to get this up quick because I'm not going to be on here for another few days. But things like the Jesus Seminar, where they say any belief that we find in the church fathers, Jesus couldn't have said. Or they're not reliable because the Gospels aren't reliable because we think they were written 30 to 40 years later. That's skeptical scholarship. 30 to 40 years later. Right, because the entire consensus of all the works is that Jesus was preaching to massive crowds of people. He had an inner circle of 12, but he also had disciples who were just around him all the time. There was, I think, another circle around him of 70, and then another of something like over 1,000. He was doing this over a 3-year period, or even if you want to chop it down to 1 year. These people can't reconstruct this. Both Luke and John are telling us, hey, we've collected these accounts. Luke especially, which is why he would be using Mark as a template. He's having to explain things, different audiences. Matthew's audience is a very Jewish audience. Even it's funny in Bart Ehrman's his popular works. If you're not familiar with a lot of stuff, say, oh yeah, well, basically, there's nothing. He says nothing could be said about Jesus. Only these very bare bones things. That's the way he makes it sound. But you hear him in debates, and he has to concede a hell of a lot. And you also have to. Bart Ehrman's a funny situation. I should go through misquoting Jesus. I was. I couldn't believe any. I'm just like, oh my gosh. I thought that was one of the most very underhanded, sneaky, an evangelical fundamentalist Christian, um, with his panties in a twist, basically. Um, but historical documents have discrepancies in them. And guess what? Sorcery and magic, that was normal for that time. I love it when the people say, "Oh, but if he did all these miracles, why wasn't he known throughout the whole empire?" Because that was normal back then. And people say, "Oh, well, if it was a magic trick or this or that," listen to people from Africa speak. The spirits are real, and I could say they're real to them, speaking as this American talking down to the black African. I'm not going to pull that crap. So I'm not going to pull that crap with the Gospels either. Of, oh well, it was really a magic trick or this or that. No, to those people there, it's real. To us, we could say, well, we don't believe that here now. That fine, but in the cultural context, as if you're gonna, oh no, that's real because it sounds like it was written in the 20th century or 21st century or even 19th century. In fact, even stuff written in the 19th century doesn't. People don't like the way it sounds. The emphasis, oh well, that's sexist or that's this or that's homophobic, and well, not to that person living there. I mean, it's funny that people who know nothing about history will not accept historical characters as people of their own time. Well, Abraham was a polygamist. No, but even if he was, does who? Okay, there were other people in there. It's just, this person's not acting like somebody from the 20th or 21st centuries. Therefore, we can't rely. They're not reliable. They're actually acting like somebody from the 1st century or the 5th century BC, or past, or in the Iron Age, or whatever. It doesn't really. The New Testament is not a magical talisman where it came. I mean, it didn't come. It's not the Quran. It's not the Book of Mormon. And I'd argue that the Book of Mormon and the Quran aren't even the Book of Mormon and the Quran. But yeah, these were written by. I mean, do people not see the gospel according to? They're giving you their version of what they want to tell you, what they're trying to convey. This isn't a modern, you have to get every single fact right in this, and they're going to tell you it's what the message to their church is trying to emphasize, to their community that they're talking to, what they're trying to emphasize. Matthew, the Jewishness. Mark, it's very hastily put together, and it looks like there's an earlier passion narrative on the front. That's why they'll even call it the passion narrative. They recognize it as something extremely early. I mean, I could go. Well, I'll make videos going through this.